Well, I think we are live now. Welcome in. This is Clippers Talk. As I set some things up here, I'm hoping you guys can see this. It's a Clippers Talk live. I just posted that we're going live. I don't know what the press conference is about. I truly don't. I'm just in the lurch like the rest of you right now. Just waiting to get some information on this. All we have so far are a couple of tweets from who we got? La Murray would be one. And I appreciate anyone joining the show here. Alex Webb says, "What's good, Adam?" La Murray would be one. He's at Intuit Dome. He's got a picture of a microphone. Justin Rousseau would be another. I know this is something media members were obviously aware of because they are there. And Justin Rousseau says Lawrence Frank and Terance Lue will be speaking momentarily here. So I guess I'll keep the coverage going and keep you abreast of the situation as quotes come out from this press conference and do a little bit of dancing. JM L or I 1324. Yeah, it's definitely not a 1. I'm still looking for clarification on that as I know he's a fan. I'm a fan of his as well. I'm Adam Osland. This is an impromptu Clippers Talk live for you guys because it's an impromptu press conference for some. Didn't know this was happening today, but it looks like the media was alerted, the local media for the Clippers. They are at Intuit Dome. Now, the timing of this is interesting because we have Media Day coming up next Monday, September 30th. And therefore, I would have thought we would have got something then, and having something on a Tuesday right beforehand leads to questions. Those questions are hopefully going to be answered here in a little bit. It's odd timing. Yes, as Alex Webb would say, a week before Media Day. Not sure exactly what this is about, but hoping to get, as Lawrence Frank now is here. And here we go. La Murray of the NU. I'm pulling tweets from him. I'll pull some from Justin Rousseau as well, and we'll try to get a little bit of clarification on what's going on here. I'm Adam Osland. We got a Clippers Talk live for you as we have a press conference with Lawrence Frank, your president of basketball operations, and head coach Terance Lue. So now that I'm getting oriented with my space here on X, as I'm pulling up tweets here from La Murray and Justin Rousseau, who are in attendance. Lawrence Frank says, "I think our defense is going to be significantly improved due to the offseason additions. I think there's a great deal of pride in our group and what we've done, where we feel extremely fortunate, where we have the longest active streak of winning seasons, 13 straight winning seasons from your Los Angeles Clippers. That is the longest active streak. Of course, the San Antonio Spurs, they have, a much longer streak at one point of over 20-plus years. La Murray has this from Lawrence Frank. Kawhi Leonard's swelling is down. Will be limited to begin training camp, but Kawhi can't wait to get started. So there's your Kawhi Leonard update. Something we've been talking about. Did a live with Grant Mona on Friday after that erroneous report or whatever it was coming out of China. Didn't get a ton of information there. The swelling is down. According to Lawrence Frank, Kawhi Leonard's swelling is down, but will be limited to begin training camp. But Kawhi cannot wait to get started. That's big news. Justin Rousseau has this quote from Lawrence Frank on Kawhi Leonard. His right knee, the swelling has significantly gone down. It's almost gone. We're going to hold him back from drill work in training camp and work on strengthening. So I'm not sure if you guys see that as positive news or not. I know we have a couple of people here in the chat. Strato says, "I'm scared." It looks like the way I'm interpreting this right now, maybe Lawrence Frank and head coach Terance Lue are just speaking with the media and getting this out of the way before Monday. That's how I'm seeing this. Lawrence Frank said, "The encouraging thing is that the team and Kawhi Leonard have seen progress in Leonard's rehabilitation of knee inflammation." There has been progress from inflammation going back to April. Interesting. Swelling down is certainly good news. I would have thought at this point, and who knows, not a doctor, that it would have been less of an issue. I am looking for a little bit more clarification on that. What we can do here is, because I have the power, is bring in a shared screen for you guys from Law Murray and give you this audio. But the problem is I won't be able to hear it at the same time from Lawrence Frank. I'm guessing it's just the audio portion of what I just played for you. So I'm just going to keep reading the quotes here from Justin Russo and Law Murray from The Athletic. Looking for an update here. This is, I don't know if any other reporters are there right now, or if it's just them too, but it is at Intuit Dome. Kind of wish I was there to just check out the new setting and what's happening at press conferences. I know we walked by it when we got the Intuit Dome tour. Myself, Chuck Mockler, Will Updike, and we got some people asking questions. Caleb Bergeson, as we fill time here to look for more quotes coming out of this Lawrence Frank press conference. Coach Lue is set to speak as well. Caleb Bergeson asked, what's the ceiling standing-wise for the Clippers? I don't know. Tell me how many games you think Kawhi Leonard is playing. I'll tell you what the ceiling is for this team. I think at this point, it's staying out of the play-in. That would be the ultimate ceiling here. As I get this from Law Murray, he said Lawrence Frank is not committing to Kawhi Leonard being ready for the regular season opener, but expects him to have a great year. Here's how I'm starting to interpret this. The swelling, as has been said here, there's progress. Quote, his right knee, the swelling has significantly gone down. It's almost gone. We're going to hold him back from drill work and training camp and work on strengthening. So therefore, he probably can't commit to whether or not Kawhi Leonard is going to be available for the regular season opener, because they don't know how he's going to respond to the strengthening of the knee and whatever drills he does go through during training camp. I have long talked to you guys about this situation going back to April when I first heard about the swelling. As JM I1324 says, that's concerning. I think it's just one of those things where you're going to have to manage it here. And the fact that it started in April and really March 31st was the last game he played before he started missing games. And it's still an ongoing issue where the swelling isn't completely down yet, but is significantly down. It's obviously something that's still being managed. If we're talking about not doing or compete or being limited in training camp, I want to quote this correctly, is where Kawhi is still at heading into training camp just a week away, or after media day on September 30th, they will be in Hawaii. He does say, Lawrence Frank, Kawhi can't wait to get started. I don't know how you guys want to interpret this right now. I'd say it's not ideal. It's not perfect. We would love to hear he's 100% and can participate in everything in training camp. But Lawrence Frank, on if Kawhi Leonard will be ready for opening day, said, quote, the timing is all going to depend on how his knee responds to each phase. This is something I've been telling you guys going back to April when I said, I'm not worried about him trying to go in a playoff game. It's how he responds after that. And after playing in game 2, his body didn't respond well. And he looked much worse in game 3. So, not a doctor, not close to it, but I've tried my best to keep you guys informed on the situation. BIGRR64 says, I just feel terrible for Kawhi Leonard. He is such a devastating player. It's just such a shame that he can't stay on the court. I'm with you. Nobody wants to be out there more than Kawhi. It's frustrating right now. It really is. This is somebody that is a top 75 player ever. and his body has betrayed him. Last 4 seasons, hasn't been able to either start a playoff run or finish a playoff run. Another quote coming from Lawrence Frank says that part of managing Kawhi Leonard is that he won't have to guard the best players with this roster. We've talked about that a lot during the offseason. You bring in Derrick Jones Jr., you bring in Chris Dunn, you have Terance Mann there, you have Nicholas Batum back, a lot of guys to guard out there. Murray also said this. Lawrence Frank says that mentally, Kawhi Leonard is encouraged that he is trending in the right direction. Yeah. I'm a little bit, I just would have thought by now the swelling had gone down enough. If we're talking about him possibly playing for Team USA, and maybe that's why they didn't feel comfortable. Kawhi Leonard had the quote out there, if his knee was in a neutral state at that time. I don't know, but I would have thought when he came into camp for Team USA and said he had a turning point 2 weeks beforehand, so we're talking about, I want to say late June, early July, that if he was trying to go then, that we'd be a little bit further along. But Justin Rousseau is putting this out from Lawrence Frank, says that he's still disappointed that Team USA didn't give Kawhi Leonard a longer runway during that specific training camp after Kawhi Leonard had been cleared medically. Okay, cleared medically is something new. Lawrence Frank pointed out that other players on the roster that are dealing with minor injuries, that there are other players on the roster that are dealing with minor injuries, and they'll be assessed ahead of training camp with the Clippers. Updates will be provided when applicable. Frank stated he would not name the players at this present time. So, not a ton of clarity here. Here's what we know so far. Kawhi has significantly improved when it comes to swelling in that right knee. There is significantly, and let me quote it exactly, his right knee, the swelling has significantly gone down. It's almost gone. We're going to hold him back from drill work in training camp and work on strengthening. That is what we have released so far from this presser with Lawrence Frank, and we believe Coach Terance Lue will be available here in just a few moments. Caleb Bergeson says, I wish, though, that the LA Clippers could get Raptors' version of Kawhi Leonard. Well, to be fair, they've gotten a better version of Kawhi Leonard. He was better than he had ever been in 2021 through the first round and a half. They just can't get a guy who's been able to stay as healthy as Kawhi did when he played 60 games in the regular season with Toronto and then ended up completing the playoff run through the finals and winning the championship and holding finals MVP. JJ the boy said disappointed about what the inflammation wasn't fully down yet. Why risk it? Why risk what? You're saying with Team USA? I think that's a fair point. Big R64, he says they have to really load manage him well this year. I agree with you, especially after hearing this news. It's significantly down, but he's still not going to be able to participate in everything during training camp. Here's something new. This comes from Justin Rousseau. Lawrence Frank says that they've had ongoing discussions with Terance Mann on an extension. Frank reiterated that they want Mann to be with the Clippers for a long time. Quote, we're hopeful we can get a deal done, Frank says. That has been one of the themes this summer. We already saw Ivica Zubac. He got his extension. So what's happening right now with Terance Mann? They're hopeful to get a deal done. This comes from Law Murray. Trenton Flowers and that wrist surgery will not be going through training camp. He's on a two-way deal. Lawrence Frank says there's also other minor injuries on the roster. Again, won't disclose names for now. Lawrence Frank on James Harden said the pecking order will be pretty clear this year. Okay. Makes sense. He's one of the top 2 players on the team. There's not going to be an issue between who's number 2 with him and Paul George. So as I'm still reading through these tweets from Justin Russo and La Murray, as there's a press conference going on right now with Lawrence Frank. The news so far is about Kawhi Leonard and getting an update on that right knee. Again, the status and the quote from Lawrence Frank was this: his right knee, the swelling has significantly gone down. It's almost gone. We're going to hold him back from drill work in training camp and work on strengthening. I'm a little bit surprised that it isn't fully gone by now. I think it's just going to be difficult to manage, guys. I got to be honest with you. We're talking about April. It's September 24th now. That's a significant chunk of time, and the swelling isn't fully down yet. Not trying to raise alarm bells, just trying to be realistic with it. Just trying to be honest. I wasn't sure at this point that we'd still be here where we're talking about his knee being somewhat swollen, but significantly less than it was. That is important. That is of note. And that's the most important thing coming out of this so far. Lawrence Frank says, regarding Terance Mann, he won't be a slow starter this year. He expects him to shoot more threes and rebound better for his position. I like that. We've talked about it. Terance Mann, notoriously the last 2 seasons now, has gotten off to very slow starts. Shooting-wise from the outside, he was coming off the ankle injury last season that occurred in practice, I think right before training camp. And then he was shooting about 20% until the calendar flipped. And in 2024, Terance Mann shot 44% from the outside. And then shot 45% in that series against the Dallas Mavericks. You're listening to a Clippers Talk Live. I'm Adam Osland. We can still take your questions here. Charles Gardner says, sorry, can't believe Frank when it comes to Kawhi. I do. I believe what he's saying. The problem is, Charles, nobody can know how his knee is going to respond once they ramp things up. This has been my concern the entire time. What happens when he plays 5-on-5? Then where's it at? Why not the Clippers says, I truly hate how they aren't transparent with us, just banking on the Kawhi name to have us buy these expensive tickets. I think they're being as transparent as possible. This is what they know about his knee right now. No one has a crystal ball of how his knee is going to respond once you get back to playing in an NBA game at the highest level, guys. No one can know that. His doctors can't know that. Kawhi can't know that. So how can the Clippers and Lawrence Frank know that? I'm just being honest with you. I think that's fair. You want them to predict the future? They can't. He's telling us the swelling is significantly down. I'm not sure what else you can really get at this point because it's Kawhi, because it's the reconstructed right knee from the ACL and the meniscus, and because of what just happened in April. Lawrence Frank says that you never want to put a ceiling on a team, confirms that he has internet access and has seen Vegas expectations for the Clippers, believes in Kawhi Leonard and James Harden leading the team, and the opportunity for the rest of them. Okay. L Frank says compete. You want to be a competitive team. Well, you need competitive guys to do so. I love that. That's what it means to be a Clipper. That's what we have seen for some time now. And that's been the makeup of this team. When the chips have been down, they played some of their best basketball. When their backs were against the wall, they played some of their best basketball. The 21-22 team. That team ended up with a winning record, even though they didn't have Kawhi the entire year and Paul George only played 31 games. The 2018-2019 team, before the 2-1-3 era, that team overachieved. Co Lemerick says, I think the big question is the swelling significant? Less from last April or from last week or from after he left Team USA? Well, I think it's obvious that it's less than from April. If the quote is, I'll keep reading it because I don't want to misquote Lawrence Frank here. His right knee, here's the quote, his right knee, the swelling has significantly gone down. It's almost gone. We're going to hold him back from drill work in training camp and work on strengthening. There's the quote. So almost gone is pretty far away from where it was in April, guys. I don't know how you can interpret that any other way. Frankie Boy 9 says, so if his knee is not 100%, why'd the Clippers wanted to play him for Team USA? Kawhi wanted to play for Team USA. And the Clippers supported that decision. Kawhi felt good enough. Kawhi said right as Team USA camp was underway that there was a turning point 2 weeks beforehand, before getting to camp, with that knee. And that's why I think he joined Team USA. He felt like he could compete. We saw tape of him playing 5-on-5 and scrimmaging. He looked solid. Other players said he looked good. The coaching staff said he looked good. And then they sent him home. So that's still perplexing. I know now that you're hearing the swelling isn't all the way down. Maybe they thought it was at a manageable enough place where for playing a few minutes here and there on Team USA, you wouldn't be risking exacerbating or worsening the injury. I don't know. It doesn't look like that question was posed or pressed to Lawrence Frank here. We're expecting Coach Lue to talk as well. Here's Law Murray saying, when Kawhi is healthy, he wants to play. That's a quote from Lawrence Frank. Lawrence Frank says the team wants Kawhi to get to 100%, and then any management plan that consists of back-to-backs will be determined from there. So, rightfully so, before you start talking about how to load manage him or manage his health best during the season, he first has to get back to 100%. So clearly he's not there yet. Maybe that's where Team USA was coming from. They want everybody to be at 100%. I don't know. It's really, as we like to say on Clips and Dip, reading tea leaves. Again, Lawrence Frank had a quote regarding if the Clippers roster has a championship or has championship aspirations. He said, quote, I'll never put a ceiling on a team. I'm not naive. I have the internet. I know what Vegas is saying about us, so we're honest about ourselves. Okay. JJ the boy says his knee probably swelled up again after the 5-on-5 scrimmages. Well, it's just conjecture and speculation. We don't know that. The quote is, it's almost gone. Stratos says this, I'm hoping this is just early load management so he isn't stressing his knee during camp and preseason. I would guess you're going to be overly cautious right now in training camp for a guy who's 33 years of age, is a vet, has been through this multiple times. Err on the side of caution. If the swelling isn't completely down, err on the side of caution and work him along slowly. Lawrence Frank would not commit to whether or not Kawhi would be available for opening night yet because they have to see how his knee responds with whatever strengthening they do during training camp. If he's not participating in some of the drills, that sounds like the case. Okay. Let's see how he responds to some of the one-on-one training and strengthening and conditioning he does. JBose84 says, swelling for 5 months. Kawhi's career is over. Well, that is just sky is falling, Chicken Little type stuff. J-Bose, This is not the way. Do I have concerns about the knee? Yes. I've told you guys this 4 or 5 months. I told you guys this on Friday after the podcast I ended up doing with Grant Mona because of a tweet that was coming out from China and it was freaking everybody out. My concern is, just like I said on Friday, it's turned into an overuse thing. Because this time it didn't seem to be one tweak that inflamed his knee or got the inflammation and swelling in there and soreness. It was he played 68 games, and then I guess over time it built up. I don't know. We really didn't get anything concrete on that end. But it didn't sound like it was one movement against the Charlotte Hornets that unfortunately caused the swelling. So I don't know if that's a wear and tear thing. I don't know if that's, okay, this is still just his second year back from the ACL and then first year back from the meniscus, and it just was too much playing 68 games last season and Kawhi's knee hit the wall. I don't know. Here's Fresh saying, not sure Law's sources close to Kawhi are trustworthy. Well, right now his source is Lawrence Frank talking to them right now at Intuit Dome. So it's straight from the horse's mouth. He's pulling this from Lawrence Frank, talking about the swelling being almost gone. Lawrence Frank also said this regarding the Western Conference, quote, the West is a beast. Think about how thin the margins are. We were fourth. Difference between fourth and 10th was 5 games. Lawrence Frank was asked about power forwards. Lawrence Frank apparently doesn't categorize it by using the number 4. He mentions he believes in a point guard, a big, and 3 wings. I like that. But also mention the following players: Kawhi, Nico, Kobe, Derek Jones, PJ Tucker, Amir, and T-Man. Also said that he wants better rebounding. So that's how he looks at the situation with power forwards, the starting 4. It's going to be Kawhi Leonard, it looks like, once again. It's become a positionless league. I totally understand his mindset and philosophy there. So many teams are going smaller, but they need to be better on the boards. This comes from JJ the Boy. That's what's so frustrating and concerning with this injury. We don't know much at all how it happened. It feels like some witchcraft stuff, man, with some real bad juju. Maybe because Kawhi doesn't know what happened. I talked about the Charlotte game afterwards and was mentioning how good he looked in that game, movement-wise. He looked great. It was one of the more explosive games he had. He was blowing by Miles Bridges. He was getting to the basket. And then he doesn't play the next game. Apparently there was knee soreness, and then it turned into swelling. You're asking to know Kawhi Leonard's body better than he does. That's what you're asking. It doesn't make sense, guys. They can't know everything. Kawhi, I don't know if he has a read on it. I understand the transparency stuff. I think they're trying the best they can. But considering there's still some swelling, but significantly less, and it's almost gone, I don't know what more you would like them to report. It's really difficult with a player like Kawhi, with the injuries he's been through, to prognosticate with any player, but especially with Kawhi when it comes to injuries and where his body's at. Jay Bose 84 says, I'm scared, hold me, Adam. Look, at least we know now going into training camp how this is going to go. the way they're going to try to manage him, at least during training camp. He will be limited to begin training camp. But the swelling is significantly down. You would not throw him right back into the fire into 5-on-5, I would guess, until he ramps up slowly and checks some more boxes. So they're holding him back from drill work in training camp. He's going to work on strengthening. That's what we know, guys. I know it's not ideal. You would have loved to just hear Kawhi's 100% ready to go, can participate in everything. I wish that was coming out today too. This is them being transparent. They're not necessarily just telling you what you want to hear. They're telling you what's going on. Frankie Boy 9 says, I feel like we're going to see 2018 and 2019 Harden this year. Harden will carry us to the Western Conference Finals. Call me crazy, but it could happen. Harden's 35 now. I don't think that's realistic at all. I think Harden could be very good. I think he can get them to have a top 10 offense still. If the defense is much improved, great. Then they're in business. I believe the defense is going to be much better than 17th. They have to be top 8 on that end to me. Why not the Clippers? Says, we have to stop stressing, Adam. LOL. We're sorry, Adam. We're just ready for basketball. Kawhi, no Kawhi. Take me into it. Yeah, obviously he's injury prone and has been unreliable as a Clipper. He's been snake bit by injuries. Nobody's more frustrated than Kawhi about this, guys. Kawhi is a killer out there. He's an all-timer. If he could play, if he was healthy enough to play, if they would let him play, because you got to protect players from themselves at times. I know Kawhi wanted to play more against Dallas. I know he wanted to play more against Phoenix. But you can't let a guy do that after all the injuries he's had. It's often not up to the player. NBA Talk says, need KPJ to start, or let's just play big like the Cavs. They don't have the personnel for that, and KPJ, the chances of him starting are minute, are extremely small, guys. Let's be realistic. He hasn't played basketball since April of 2023. He's being investigated by the NBA. He could still be suspended. Him at starting shooting guard, and that Reddit post is wild. Maybe it was from NBA Talks. Gregarious1 says, the way load managing is gone, I would be more concerned with how ready he will be later in the season than how ready he will be opening the season. Well, they've left no stone unturned. They've tried everything so far with Kawhi outside of just waiting till March to play him. But you can't wait till March and say just save him for the playoffs. They wouldn't make the playoffs in the West if you wait that long. I don't think. They would be flirting with being out of the play-in if that was the case. So the team, guys, they're trying everything they can to handle this the right way. They really are. JJ the Boy says, I ain't blaming Kawhi. I just feel bad. All I can do is pray for his health throughout the season. As for cup half full perspective, at least the swelling is down and not worse, making progress. That's important. Now, I don't know how much he's tested it. That's my question. How much rigorous training has he done? And I'll say this. It was reported by Kelly Johnson at opening night of Into a Dome on the red carpet. She talked with Mo Bamba. Mo Bamba and Kawhi are boys and have been for a while. And he went down and traded in San Diego with Kawhi and talked about how tough the training regimen was. That's encouraging to me. So if that's the case, and it's almost gone, even while training that knee, even while doing hard stuff, even while doing maybe most of the usual off-season training stuff he does, that would be very encouraging. NBA Talk says, let's trade everyone for SGA, LOL. Dude, just lose my number or whatever. Like, this is not helpful. This is not productive Breaky Boy 9 says, changing topics, the part 1 interview with Ralph Lawler was amazing. Can't wait for part 2. I appreciate everybody for checking that out. Worked hard on it. My director, Chris Graham. Like, I'm just there asking questions. He made it look good. Ralph made it sound good. But I'm proud of it. I hope you guys enjoy part 1. It's up now. Put it up yesterday on the YouTube side. Called it Clippers Talk All Access Part 1 with Ralph Lawler. So enjoy that. And maybe we'll get better news as training camp goes along here. Let me check in with Law Murray and see if Coach Lue has come to the podium yet here. Yes, he has. Coach Lue is here. So this is basically a pre-media day bonus with Coach Lue and Lawrence Frank. I don't know if that means they will still be speaking next Monday or not. Some quotes coming out from Coach Lue. He says that last year's training camp set the tone for the entire season in terms of conditioning and how hard they needed to play. Now they have to do it without Russ. Well, they played hard at times for sure. They also ended up being 17th defensively when they said at training camp the goal was to be top 5. Coach Lue said this on Harden and his responsibility: more pick and rolls. Good. Run them. It's easy offense. It's easy money. Coach Lue says that there will be competition for starting jobs. This is interesting. This is something. This is a development, guys. A competition for starting jobs. We've been thinking the entire time that it's going to be most likely James Harden, Terance Mann, Derrick Jones Jr., Kawhi Leonard, and Ivica Zubac. So is Norman Powell in the mix to be a starter? Are he and Terance Mann competing for that spot? Or, this is a question I posed recently, not many have talked about it. Is it possible Nico Batum starts at the 4, which puts Kawhi at the 3, which then leads to a competition between Derrick Jones Jr., Terance Mann, and Norman Powell for the starting 2 spot? That would be interesting. Now that got me thinking. JJ the Boy says Zubac needs to be on Rocky level montage prep for this offseason. That's pretty good. Zubac with the long hair, as Chuck Mockler and Will Updike would say. Long hair Zubac would be a bucket. So, more from Coach Lue coming out. And I got Justin Russo and Law Murray up, both their Twitter accounts, and just reading those at this media press conference or local media press conference with the Clippers. Here's more on what I just spoke about. Justin Russo phrased it as this: Tyronn Lue said that there will be a competition from some starting positions, and that he wants the team to play faster, get more threes up, and generally take better shots. Starting positions is plural. Multiple spots? Okay, let's go over this. Harden, Zoo, and Kawhi, they're locks, right? The other 2 spots, the 2 and the 3 or the 2 and the 4, depending on where you're putting Kawhi. If Nico Batum starts, then Kawhi can slide down and play the 3 spot. Remember, Kawhi said last season he'll play the 4 till they get a real one. Okay. They got Nico Batum back. I don't know. This is interesting. JMI 1324 asks, what do you think about Chris Dunn and DJJ starting to help your point of attack defense? What do you think? Chris Dunn's going to start over James Harden? You're saying start James next to Chris Dunn, next to Derrick Jones Jr., Kawhi, and Zubac. So no Terance Mann, no Powell. I don't know. I'm open to competition in camp. I like that idea. I'm all for that. I want guys iron sharpening iron out there. Let's see if we got anything more from Coach Lue. Yes, we do. Regarding his new extension, he stated that he was happy to get a new deal with the Clippers this offseason. Quote, fully guaranteed 5-year deal. Lue joked that he can leave things in the arena now rather than have to take things home because they own Intuit Dome. Man, broadcasters get to do that too. Do we get little cubby holes or lockers there? I don't know. Tyronn Lue says that he wanted Jeff Van Gundy on his Cleveland staff. We learned that from the article from Ohm Young-Masuk, who came on with me last week. Here's what Coach Lue put as the criteria for the guard playing next to James Harden. Defend, make open shots. Quote, T-Man has been great. We got to see how it plays out. So Terance Mann, he's got to re-earn that starting job. That's interesting. I'm not shocked by it. If Terance Mann does what he did after the calendar turned into 2024, I think he'll be okay, but he can't turn down shots from three. He's got to put them up. And his defense has to be where it was against Luka Doncic in the playoffs to start the year. He was so much better in that playoff series than he had been all season long defensively. He had been all right, but I don't think he was fully locked in. Terance Mann and the starting two guard job is up in the air right now, guys. Here's Big RR64. How are we going to score enough points? That's what I'm worried about. A system. James Harden didn't say the system. I'm the system. He said I'm a system. Not a system player. I'm a system. That's how. High pick and roll. James Harden, guys, the last 12 years, the worst a James Harden offense has ever ranked was 12th. On average, they're 5th. Multiple years, they were 1st. Get Zubats involved, get Kawhi cooking, and get their other two guys open threes. I believe in a system with James Harden. Jackson Snow says they've been telling Mann to prove himself for the past 4 years. It's a fair point. I think it's a familiar role that Terance Mann is in right now, having to earn it, having to prove himself. I hope he does, but I don't know who it is that's pushing him most between Chris Dunn and Norman Powell. It's not Kevin Porter Jr., guys. It's not. But it's one of those two guys. They both are. Maybe they said, Chris Dunn, you come here, you have a chance to earn the starting two-guard spot. I mean, it could also be, are they thinking Derrick Jones Jr. can just play the starting two because they might have Kawhi at the 3 because Nicholas Batum might be playing the 4 to start? I don't know. But we got a lot to talk about now. This is getting interesting. JJ the Boy says, kind of hard to prove yourself while your role constantly changes and has to play off of 4 Hall of Famers. Well, I mean, last season, what did he end up starting, Terance Mann? 60 games? Seems like a big enough sample size. And to be honest, he ended up shooting. He started 71 games last season, guys. He shot 35% from 3. Now, again, the last 50 games or so, he was at 44% from 3, which tells you how bad he started off. And Lawrence Frank said in this presser that Terance Mann, he's got to start faster, basically. I'm paraphrasing a little bit there. Now we got some stuff from Coach Lue. I want to make sure to get it to you guys. This is all coming from our fabulous reporters in La Murray, and Justin Rousseau. I don't know what the question was, but Coach Lue said, quote, yeah, we're going to have an identity this year. Well, if you know me, I've been asking, what's their identity the past couple of seasons? I don't think they've had one. And that's been frustrating. I think it's going to be a defense-first mentality. Terance Lue did say that the defensive improvement will come from playing harder, rebounding the basketball, and getting back in transition. So Lawrence Frank and Coach Lue have made a point when it comes to rebounding better. We know that's been an issue. Here's Old Dirty Dasher saying, I believe in a defense anchored by Zoo. Well, yeah. He was the best rim protector in the league last season. Why would you not? Nobody held defenders to a lower percentage at the rim than Big Zoo. Big RR64 says defense needs to be their identity. That's their strong point. I told you that back on, what day was it? June 30th when free agency opened up. I immediately said, when they got Derrick Jones Jr., this is it. They're building a defensive ball club. That's how they're making up for the loss of Paul George. They're not going to be 17th defensively this season. They can't be. They have to be top 10. I think they have to be top 8. Then Chris Dunn comes. Then Nico Batum. This has been something I've talked about. We've talked about on Clips and Dip all summer long, guys. So I'm not surprised by the messaging here, making defense a talking point, and I'm guessing that's going to be their identity. Looks like that was the last we got from La Murray. He's asking if you want the press conference on YouTube or not. Let's see if Justin Rousseau is finished on his side with his tweets. And by the way, he's at FlyByNite, KNITE. Follow him and follow La Murray at La Murray the NU on X. Terance Lue said this about new Clippers assistant coach Jeff Van Gundy. Quote, I always tell him he's not happy unless he's mad. Which is a pretty funny, well-worded statement. Again, there's going to be a competition for the 2 spot. That's the second biggest development coming out of this. It's not secure with Terance Mann. He started 71 games last season. But that job is still, I guess, somewhat on shaky ground. They brought in Chris Dunn. Norman Powell, I think he's always wanted to be a starter. I think he's always wanted to be an all-star. Last season, he kind of accepted his role as a 6th man. And it worked out for him. Shooting 44% from 3, getting 14 points per night. It's going to be an interesting competition because I think a lot of Clipper Nation, they're going to be rooting for Terance Mann to win it because, well, he's the incumbent, I guess, and he has been a fan favorite for so long. But I find it fascinating that a guy they're working on an extension with and trying to get locked up longer doesn't have a secure starting spot. I'm not shocked by it. I think this is just what it is now with the Clippers. They're trying to build a culture of competition and light a fire under guys and make them feel like they always have to be out there competing and playing at their best. What's wrong with that? So if Terance Mann's fighting with Chris Dunn and Norman Powell for the starting 2 spot, good. And like Lawrence Frank said, quote, Terance Mann won't be a slow starter this year. Expect him to shoot more threes and rebound better for his position. That's his mission. That's what's expected of him. And that's what needs to happen if he wants to hold on to being the starting 2 guard. It's pretty simple. Terance Mann attempted just under 4 threes per game last season. it was down 2 attempts from where he was in the 21-22 season, where he was playing 3 more minutes per game, granted, because that was the year without Kawhi, the year where Paul George only played 31 games. But he probably should have still been taking 5 threes per game last season. Remember, once he went into that rut, he shied away. He passed up 3 balls. That's been his issue. It's not whether or not he can shoot from the outside. He's a 37% three-point shooter for his career. And we're talking at this point, almost 1,000 threes taken in his 5 seasons in the NBA. That's enough of a sample size. He's a good three-point shooter. Have confidence in your shot. Don't shy away from it. They need you. For them to unlock their offense, he has to take and make threes. Here's Thomas saying, I hope Ty Lue will give Cam Christie 10 minutes a game for 82 games to speed up the process. I don't want him in the G League. Well, he's a young player, 1 year at college at Minnesota. I wouldn't bank on that. Kobe Brown, who was 23, 24 years of age last season, got a 10-game sample size and then didn't progress further than that, because that was a team with championship expectations that was trying to win now, and they couldn't wait on him. We'll see. They're trying to compete now, while I think getting guys and young guys a little bit more run out there in development. Yes, he has a high IQ. Great. You know how many young players come out and have a high IQ and it's still the game is moving far too fast for them? We have no idea how far along he is yet because he's never played at this level. Summer League is not the NBA. Sorry. He has a tangible skill set. He can shoot. I don't think he'll be afraid to put him up, but you don't know. He hasn't done it at this level yet. I think he is a legit three-point threat already. But if he doesn't do all the other little things right, it doesn't matter. He's going to hurt you on the other end of the court. He's going to hurt you in all the little ways, the intangibles. So we'll see what type of opportunity he gets. I don't know, when Coach Lue talks about a starting 2 and that position being up for grabs in training camp, that Cam Christie is competing for that job. Yes, voice of reason. Thomas says, thanks. Yeah, game is too fast for rookie. Well, typically, yes. So I'm not going to say he's going to be getting 10 minutes per night. That would be pretty significant for a second-round pick 44 or 46. I forget which one he was and which one Terance Mann was. The best way for him to learn and get more reps is the G League. That's the path right now. Because the G League, they don't have dogs down there. They got wolves, as Sindarius Thornwell said before. You don't want to have to go to the G League because those guys play so hard every minute, every second of the game because they're climbing over each other like rats on a sinking ship to try to make it up to the big leagues in the NBA. Those guys go so hard. So as much as I love Cam Christie, I wouldn't expect him to be at the NBA level to start the season. Maybe if he looks like the game is too small for him in the G League and he dominates, maybe he'll get a look. But why would you think he's getting the look before someone like Jordan Miller, who was 8th in G League scoring last year and just lit up Summer League? And so far, every hurdle you put in front of him, he clears. That's the guy that should be getting a shot first. He and Kobe Brown are turning 25 by the end of this season, guys. It's kind of now or never. Honestly, this is it. They got to find out what they have. And I don't know. Jordan Miller, he should have been the MVP of the Summer League. He dominated. Marino, Andrade says, what is your starting lineup? I'll give you mine. I'll give you what I hope the starting lineup is going to be. Simple. James Harden, Terance Mann, Derek Jones Jr., Kawhi Leonard, Ivica Zubac. That's my starting five. But I see arguments for other guys in there. I could argue with myself right now and say I kind of like Nicholas Batum with the starters at the 4 spot. So Kawhi plays a 3. And then you got a decision to make between Derek Jones Jr. and Terance Mann at the 2. And obviously it's James Harden running the show. Thomas says, but Jordan Miller needs to prove it in an actual NBA game. Yes, he does. But he's already proven it in the G League and dominating Summer League. So you give him the chance before Cam Christie. Like, if a guy is overcoming all the challenges you throw in front of him at lower levels, eventually you have to see what he can do at the highest level. That's how it works. I agree with old Dirty Dasher. We're down bad if Cam Christie is getting run this season. Probably. There's just so many guys on this team that have shown more and have done more at higher levels so far than Cam Christie. Hey, would love to be wrong. I'm rooting for the guy. Like I said, he showed better defense in Summer League than I thought he had. And the shot, he didn't shy away. He was confident. That could be a steal in the draft. Really believe that. Here is Nara asking about Terance Mann. If he doesn't get the starting role, trade Mann then. We can't lose him for nothing. If he doesn't get the starting role, he still is a very valuable piece, giving you 20-plus minutes per night while only making $11 million or $10 million per year. It's going to be tough to get equal value considering how little he's being paid right now. Now, I understand you don't want to lose him for nothing and go into next offseason with Terance Mann just being able to walk. But you at least take it till the trade deadline, most likely. Unless those talks get nasty and things become untenable with he and his agent, which I don't expect to happen. No. I'm seeing how things go with Terance Mann and where this team is at before I trade somebody making that little, that has a very high level of production when it comes to making winning plays and being a plus out there. Breno Andrade, I think I already pronounced his name 2 different ways. Jordan Miller and Kobe need minutes this season. Okay. Do you also want to win this season? That's the balance. That's the teeter-totter game. You likely can't do both. It's very hard to blend in young guys and also win at the same time. It can be done. Denver's been able to do it. Of course, they have Jokic and Murray and Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. and guys being relatively healthy. I know Jamal Murray's had some issues, but Jokic really hasn't. So they can hold up their end while young guys learn. Not everybody can do that. That's difficult. Thomas says, I saw the Rico Hines and Kevin Porter Jr. shots horrible in the free throw. Horribly written and phrased here. I just don't know why he's like that if he's such a good shooter. So he wasn't shooting it well at the free throw line. I don't know. I'm going to look up his numbers at the charity stripe in his career. I'm more interested in what he's actually done in the NBA than a Rico Hines run at the free throw line. He's a 72% free throw shooter, so not great, but his last season he shot almost 80% from the charity stripe. I don't think whether or not he's hitting free throws is going to make or break whether or not he can play for the Clippers. It's, first of all, is he going to be suspended by the NBA? Easy for me to say. Second of all, if he is, well, other guys are already filling that spot and the season has started. It's going to be really difficult for him to break into the rotation. If he's not, he still is competing with guys who have played more recently in the NBA and guys who have played for the Clippers. How's he going to overtake Norman Powell? Because I don't think you can play Chris Dunn next to Norman Powell and KPJ out there in some 3-guard lineup, guys. I think you can play Chris Dunn next to either of them, but not next to both. So how do you get minutes for everybody? It's really tough. Big RR64 says, I believe they'll re-sign Terance Mann here in a few weeks. Well, he's been extension eligible for some time, and it hasn't happened yet, but maybe you have some intel we don't. I hope that's the case. I wouldn't be shocked. That Mexican Nar says, if Batum starts, who's the backup for? Kai, Kobe? Kai hasn't squashed a grape yet in the NBA either. He's on a non-guaranteed camp invite, guys. I hope he balls out and becomes a stud in this league for the Clippers. But what are we talking about? I think Amir would play a little bit of 4. Not great at it. Not ideal. I think Kobe Brown's going to get a shot. We'll see. It's a fair question. That is the appropriate one if Nico Batum is starting. Will they just go smaller with their second unit? I don't know. It's hard to say at this point. It's just interesting that it sounded like not just a position is up for grabs, but positions, if I'm reading that correctly from La Murray and Justin Rousseau. Thomas asks, why do the Clippers take a risk on Kevin Porter if he's going to be suspended? Because it could be a project, something long-term, because he is talented, because they're not looking for him to make a contribution immediately. That's probably why. Rafa Menta says CB in Denver played a huge role. Christian Brown, in the Nuggets winning the chip. Likely a huge role for Dallas. Lively, a huge role for Dallas's rookie. Lue is stubborn in his ways. Look, if somebody shines and shows something, then they'll play. These young guys haven't. Don't tell me that Kobe Brown didn't get a shot last year. He did. He got a 10-game sample size. He got a little bit better by the end of it, but the game was still too fast for him. And tell me, who are the young guys on the Clippers that you want playing over some of the vets right now that are going to help you win more now? Tell me who those guys are. I don't think that's conclusive. Jordan Miller, Kobe Brown haven't showed anything. Cam Christie has not showed anything. Kevin Porter Jr. could be talked about as a young guy. He could be suspended. He has shown something in the league, but he also hasn't played since April of 2023. Who are these guys? Who are the young guys that should be playing over more established players? Big RR64 says that James Harden version is gone. They need him to play more like John Stockton. Well, I agree. The guy who was getting 35 per game or close to at times. We had someone ask about this earlier. He's not walking through the door at the age of 35. James Harden is not going to average 35 at the age of 35 now. I'm sorry. Brandon Boston Jr. is not on the Clippers anymore. If that's the guy you're saying should play, I hate to break it to you. Brandon Boston Jr. also got enough opportunities. Tell me, what's his NBA skill set right now? Because he never showed it. He had a couple flashes, and that was it. He's somebody that would try to get into his bag, bog down the offense, was more of an individual ISO scorer, if I'm being generous. That's how he could project to be in this league, a 6-man Jordan Clarkson type, but that is being very, very generous. He never showed enough, guys. And I think he got enough opportunities. He also had some injuries. Here's Brino Andrade asking or saying, Batum in the starting lineup is good, but the second unit will be too small. Well, it depends. Do you stagger the Ivica Zubats and play him a lot with the second unit? Is Terance Mann starting or not? He can play multiple positions. So there's a lot in flux right now. D Flow says all this news today makes me even more proud to be a Clippers fan, baby. Let the heartache I'm used to begin. Misery loves company and more misery. James Harden's goal should be to lead the league in assists. Big RR64 says that. Yeah, he did it just 2 years ago with Philadelphia. You're saying Bones Highland is a guy. I am the leader of the Bones Highland fan club. Who is he taking minutes away from? Between James Harden, Chris Dunn, Norman Powell, Terance Mann. He had the backup point guard spot in his grasp, and then they brought in James Harden. That meant Russ was coming off the bench. How was Bones going to play? Do I wish he was the backup instead of Russell Westbrook last season? Yeah, I do. Because he has shown me enough to say that guy is a backup point guard in the NBA right now and can be electric. But some of it's on him. He pouted, it looked like, out there. He slouched. His shoulders dropped when he stopped getting playing time. And then when even he did get out there during garbage time, he was playing unserious basketball. Thomas says, I hope Ty Lue has a set rotation established after 10 to 15 games because every time Ty Lue experimented with different lineups throughout the regular season, it messes up the chemistry and connection. What about when he experimented with putting Russell Westbrook off the bench and starting Terance Mann again? That seemed to work. That experiment seemed to work pretty well. Look, they had to implement James Harden on the fly. Wasn't easy. I think it worked out when they clicked in and went 26-5 in a 31-game stretch. I think that worked out all right. Now, regarding Mo Bamba, Rafa Mentue says, we have Bamba for the second unit. Yeah, well, things could still change. I like Mo Bamba. I think he has more upside than people realize. But he hasn't exactly established himself in this league yet for being such a high pick. It's the reason the Clippers were able to get him on, I believe, a vet min. He still has plenty to prove. We'll see. It is a situation that is going to lead to a lot of storylines this season. Bastian, Schweinsteiger. That's a footballer. I learned that. Really think this team buys in defensively with Jeff Van Gundy, man. Gives us more room for error this season, given how hard we'll compete on that end. Yeah, if you raise your floor and your baseline of this is how we play every night defensively, and guys really give a great effort on that end, shots will come and go on the offensive end, and you'll still be in games. It is a sustainable and realistic way to get by in the regular season by having a high-end defense regardless of where your offense is. Because I don't remember if it was Doc Rivers who said it, but he said you can have a winning record in the regular season if you just play hard every night. So, yeah, Jeff Van Gundy, I was all for bringing him in. It's really cool. The first team he is back in the NBA with being an assistant coach for is the Clippers because a lot of teams have been after him. Thomas says, I think Jeff Van Gundy is a great mentor to the young guys and can show them how to play the game the right way. Yeah. He's fiery. He will have guys well prepared and ready on that end. I expect them to be a top 10 defense. But if they can be top 8, and a lot of that could be dependent on how many games you get out of Kawhi Leonard because he's such a great defender. But if they can be top 8, now you're in business. Because I think with James Harden, after looking through over the numbers, last 12 seasons with him, no matter if he's in Houston or Brooklyn or Philly, the worst offense he's ever had was ranked 12th. And on average, offenses with James Harden were top 5. That's big. Shaquem Samuel says, so how far do you think the Clippers can go in the playoffs? Playoffs means you're a top 6 seed or you get in through the play-in. I think they're going to end up somewhere. Let's say if Kawhi plays 50 games, if James Harden plays 65 plus games, I think they'll be somewhere between 6 and 8. But nothing's guaranteed in the West. If Kawhi struggles with his health more, as we have seen, what are we talking about with playoffs? Why talk about playoffs? I want to see if Kawhi can play 7 to 10 games straight again. That's what I want to see. I just want to see a healthy Kawhi and where he's at before we start making predictions. Yeah, I think overall there's somewhere 6 to 10. But it's going to be really tight, as Lawrence Frank mentioned, in the Western Conference. You look at it, the Sacramento Kings 2 years ago were the 3 seed. They won 48 games. Last year, they won 2 less at 46, and they dropped down to the 9th seed in the West. 2 games in 1 season of difference. That's incredible to me. But all this is always going to come down to the health of Kawhi Leonard. If he can give them 50, 55, 60 games or more, then I feel good about the Clippers' chances of staying afloat and hovering just outside being in the play-in. But I don't know. I don't know where his health's going to be at. And once again, the quote coming from Lawrence Frank is regarding the swelling with Kawhi Leonard. And I want to get it right one more time here for you, because this was the main story coming out of this press conference with Lawrence Frank and Coach Lue today. Lawrence Frank said this regarding the status of Kawhi Leonard's knee. Quote, his right knee, the swelling has significantly gone down. It's almost gone. We're going to hold him back from drill work in training camp and work on strengthening. Lawrence Frank said the encouraging thing is that the team and Kawhi Leonard have seen progress in Leonard's rehabilitation of knee inflammation. That's it. When you want to talk about where the Clippers could end up, I don't know. How many games is Kawhi playing? Kind of hinges on that. And if he's healthy, he will be playing. He wants to play. Art H said, I'm expecting 21 points per game from James Harden this year. He's putting the work in. I think that's realistic. Without Paul George, with how much is going to be demanded of James Harden, Coach Lue talked about more pick and rolls this season. Loved hearing that, because that means you're getting Big Zoo involved too a ton. Has to happen. But James Harden could very well go from 16.6 points per game to 21 points per game, which is where he was last year, the year before last, in Philadelphia. In 58 games, averaged 21 points and 10.7 assists per ball game. That's the James Harden they need, guys. It's pretty simple. He ended up shooting 44% from the floor and almost 39% from the outside that final season with Philly. That's the blueprint. That's it. Give us that version of James Harden, and the Clippers are in business. They still need Kawhi to be healthy, but I think that's the minimum of what you need from James Harden, and I think it's very much attainable. I do. I would not be shocked if he has a very similar season to what we saw that last year in Philly. I'm interested to see where he's at movement-wise, because he had a hamstring injury in Brooklyn that it seems like the further he gets away from it, the more burst he shows. But we'll see. He's 35, just turned 35. He's had, by all accounts, a healthy offseason, but there is this other note coming from the Clippers regarding other guys having minor injuries on the roster. Those names aren't being disclosed for now. So we have to wait and see. Next Monday, media day. Looking forward to that. I also like this prediction here from Brino saying Zoo needs to step up big this season. 16 points per game and 10 boards would be great. Yes, it would be. I think that's the bare minimum they need from Ivica Zubac, 16 and 10. That's kind of been where I've been at. 64, a big RR64 says Big Zoo could easily average 15 and 10 with opportunities. He's got to play more than 26 minutes per game, which is where he was at this past season. I'm confident he will. It's going to be right on the line, I think, of 30 minutes, right in there. 29, 30, 31, somewhere in there. Rafa Mentue said Zoo is 30-30. Or Zoo's 30-30 game proved he has it in him. Almost 30-30 game. I think he had 29 boards, not 30. All right. Appreciate everyone for being in here. One more time, I'll advertise. After I'm done here, maybe go check out the Ralph Lawler interview. It's special. It's shot really well. You'll be amazed by the production level. It was appropriate because it was Ralph. I had to do it big, had to do it right for him. And it's just part one. It's about 47 minutes long. Came out yesterday. And it's one of the features now on Clippers Talk, and it is a Clippers Talk YouTube exclusive. So if you're listening to this episode of the Clippers Talk Live on the podcast side, the only way you can see the Ralph Lawler interview is going to Clippers Talk on YouTube. Simple. Doesn't cost you anything. You just go there. Appreciate everyone for joining me during this press conference from Coach Lue, from Lawrence Frank. Big ups to La Murray, to Justin Russo. Follow them. That's where I was gathering this information from. Make sure you support the local media and reporters for the Clippers here. That's the way to do it. Art says he's checking out the Ralph Lawler interview. This is one of those things where I can't overhype it. I honestly think it will deliver for you guys. And when part 2 comes out, I think it's even better than part 1. Really. Really, I do. But anyways, love you all. Check me out tomorrow night. We'll have a Clips and Dip episode. And I think before that, I'll have an interview up with Carl Jimenez. Excuse me, not Carl Tart, not Carlo Tart. Carlo Jimenez, your radio voice of the Clippers. As my throat is, I'm running out of steam here. My radio partner, Carlo Jimenez, will join me tomorrow on Clippers Talk. Should be up around 5 or 5:30. That'll be a podcast, not a live. Carlo Jimenez, you may know from the TikToks, the Tiki-Tuckies. Yeah, he is pretty slick with it. I'll ask him about his social media presence and being 1 year in as the Clippers' new radio play-by-play voice. So, I'm Adam Oslin. This has been another edition of Clippers Talk Live. Talk to you